Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today, as you can probably tell by the title of this video, we're going to talk about how I epically failed every reading goal I had for September. Every single one. So I'm going to tell you what the goals were and what got in the way of those goals, and hopefully by the end of this video I'll have some sort of idea of what I plan to do about it. I'm gonna try to make this funny, but it's not really that funny. So there's that. I'll try to still be entertaining in my failure. So for the month of September, I had 3 books for my genre project, a physical book from the Pick My Book selection from you guys, and a Kindle roulette pick that, quite frankly, I've been failing at the Kindle stuff for a hot minute. So the genre that I selected for the month of September was dark or grimdark fantasy. And I had 3 perfect book selections picked out for that. The first is The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie, which came highly, highly recommended. I had that on audiobook. Then 2 physical books, Nevernight by Jay Kristoff, which I'd wanted to read for 3 years, and The Gray Bastards by Jonathan French, which is a book that kind of hit my radar when I was just browsing for books one day and always stuck in the back of my mind, but I would never fully give myself permission to read it because I didn't know how I would feel about dark fantasy, and for some reason it seemed like too much of a risk. But those were the 3 genre picks. And then your Pick My Book selection for September was A Guide for Murdered Children by Sarah Sparrow. Another book that I've been wanting to read for a significant amount of time. And I did not read a book to completion in the month of September. Officially, as of right now, I'm about halfway through The Gray Bastards and a few hours into the audiobook for The Blade Itself. The other 2 books I haven't even touched. So what happened? I mean, it was a lot of things really that have gone on. I mean, it was a particularly busy month for me in that we as a family took a week-long vacation. In the middle of the month, we went to West Virginia. And with a week-long vacation and a family of 4, what you're really looking at is like 3 days prior to vacation in order to prepare, and then 3 days post-vacation in order to sort of get back into the swing of things. Now, one would think, including myself, that I would get a lot of reading done on vacation. That's when people read the most. Not me, apparently. And I think that has a lot to do with the circumstances of 2020 and just being out into the world for the first time this year, going on our first vacation and stretching our legs and breathing fresh air. And I planned to read in the car. I didn't read in the car. I planned to have quiet, reflective moments alone, which I didn't, but that was fine. Like, I didn't want to take myself out of the moment for anything, both because I was just really enjoying traveling, which I love to do and have not been able to do. I was really enjoying that, and I didn't want to also rob my husband and my kids of my presence for any portion of that time because they were probably enjoying it too. And, you know, I just wanted to be present. In addition to that, like, I've had crazy internet problems for the last couple of months. I've spent hours on the phone with my ISP, treating me like a child, telling me to reroute or to restart my router. After the 3rd complaint, they finally sent a technician out to my house, and come to find out all my lines were bad. They had gotten water into them, and so they replaced all the lines. Again, that in and of itself, not a big deal, but there's just something about my state of mind that has taken these little issues lately and let them sort of derail me. I had a bookshelf break and collapse and spill every book of the month book I own and all of my purchased but not yet hauled books. All of those were all over the floor of my office. And again, in and of itself, not a big deal, but it took a couple of hours to clean it up. The shelf is a goner, so I have literally just stacks of books. I did manage to get them separated between books that I owned and had hauled and book of the month, etc., and the books that I hadn't yet hauled, because, you know, as big of a failure as September was, I still didn't fail to buy books, which really, I mean, it just is another facet of this that irritates me about myself. And so those three things were kind of like unexpected or rather unusual circumstances that I dealt with in September. And then there's just my general sort of state of mind. So the boys are 2 years old now, and for the last 2 years, I've had this slowly building anxiety that I haven't dealt with before. I mean, I'm a pretty depressed person typically. Like, if I'm going to suffer from something, it's usually depression. And what's been different is that since the boys were born, I've had anxiety really bad. And it's slowly been building, and it got to the point in the last few months, I think, with all of the things I can't control, like coronavirus and systemic racism and the subsequent protesting and the political climate that we find ourselves in once again. Like, I think that the anxiety just stomped its foot on the gas these last few months, and it's become an issue. So in September, I also saw a primary care physician for the first time in 5 years, because I'm not really a doctor person. So that was a whole other source of anxiety for me. And, you know, that resulted in more appointments, which is good. It's good. You know, I'm seeking like medical intervention for the thing that's making me less productive and more forgetful and unable to focus. So that's good, but that doesn't help me in the immediate. That doesn't help me achieve things like reading goals in the immediacy, in my immediate, in the moment. So a good portion of the month was spent in enjoyment. I really enjoyed my vacation. I really enjoyed, you know, watching my kids play outside most of the day for an entire week. I really enjoyed showing my husband some of the things that I love the most about West Virginia and exploring, finding new things that I love about West Virginia. It was a really great point. So I don't want to say, oh, September was terrible, I just want to throw it away. That's not the case. It was just a very unusual month for me, and kind of the breaking point in a lot of ways for things that I need to change going forward. And it just so happens that all of that was going on and I didn't read any books. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I feel terrible about it. You know, part of me is understanding of myself in that, you know, I once went an entire year without reading a book because I was pregnant and my hormones were all over the place and my brain convinced me that I hated books. You know, I understand these things happen. I wouldn't necessarily classify this as a reading slump because I want to read. I want to read. I just can't force myself. And my mom's pearl of wisdom is that it takes three things to be successful at any goal or to achieve any one thing. That is the desire, meaning you have to want it. And I want to read. And you have to also have the ability, and I can read, so I have the ability to read, but you also have to have the willpower to overcome any obstacles between you and that thing you desire. And I don't have a ton of willpower right now. I just don't. And that sucks because I don't know how else to explain that. Like, I'm coming off of August and finding my favorite book, or one of my favorite books of all time, into this month where I didn't read anything. And how do you even explain that? I can't explain it other than what I've just explained. So what am I going to do? What are we going to do about this? I want to finish those books very genuinely. Like, I don't want to slam the door on those books and just write off the month and then move on with my life. Like, I mean it when I say I was interested in all of those. I really want to read them. As far as October is concerned, the genre that I drew for October was romantic suspense. And your pick my book selection for October is Dark Places by Gillian Flynn, as of right now. I think what I want to do is keep Dark Places, but I want to replace romantic suspense with all of the books that I failed to read in September. And here's my reasoning for that. So the genre project exists. I started it in order to expose myself to different types of books that didn't necessarily fit into my reading comfort zone. I just included all the subgenres that I could find, or all the subgenres that I could say probably legitimately exist, and put them all in a bowl, including the ones that I read all the time, like romantic suspense, thinking that I could find an angle or at least expose myself, take the opportunity to expose myself to new authors, classics in the genre, or, you know, just something. I knew I could do something creative even with the genres that I read all the time. But in this case, considering October has a genre that I do read all of the time, I think it's probably a better idea to skip reading romantic suspense, or skip trying to find romantic suspense that exposes me to some new aspect of the genre, and instead continue with dark fantasy and A Guide for Murdered Children in its place. I already have plans, and they're pretty ambitious plans for the end of the year. And I don't want to throw those out in order to continue this. So that's what I can come up with. If you can come up with something else that doesn't absolutely rake me over the coals, then I'm all ears. Let me know what you think. And in the meantime, I have to get real creative with booktube content. If I want to keep producing videos for you guys, which I do, I'm a booktuber who hasn't read anything. So I have to get really creative with what we talk about until I get some of this stuff read. I do have a book haul because, again, didn't fail to buy books. So my next video will be a book haul for the month of September. And then I don't know what I'm going to do for you guys during the month of October. So help me out. What are some video suggestions, some things that you would like to see me talk about on this channel, or, you know, tags, topics, anything would help. Book look requests, even though I usually like being able to talk about books that I've read on a book look, but you know what? If you want to see me do crazy makeup look based on some crazy random book that you think would be interesting, let me know those. It's better than just disappearing for a month until I get something read, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I should have just disappeared for a month and then come back and been like, oh, guess what happened? That's not how this went. This didn't go that way. I did this instead. So, sorry for totally sucking. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for contributing so much to this channel. I get so much input from you guys. Like, I really feel like this is, you know, a very interactive booktube experience, because you pick my books, you tell me what to film. But thank you for that, and thank you for watching. And I will see you all very soon.